Hello, Homeworthy, Virginia and Charlie. Welcome to Seno Hall in Norfolk. Come on in and have a look.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hello, I'm Virginia Temple Richards, and we are at Seno in beautiful rural North Norfolk at the moment, about 20 minutes from the North Norfolk coast. It's very rural and very rolling. Everybody thinks that Norfolk is very flat, but this bit of Norfolk is not flat. Anyway, so that's where we are today.
And I'm Charlie Temple Richards, married to Virginia, and welcome to our house. We'd love to show you around.
The reason why we're here is because Charlie's mother was the oldest of 4 cooks who lived in the house, and she moved away when she was married. Her younger brother, Thomas Cook, lived here for most of his life until he moved out 23 years ago because he didn't have any children, and he thought we would be the perfect people to take over, Charlie being his nephew. And we had children, young children at the time, and he thought that the house would have a good future with young children being in the house and making it their home.
I should mention that up until that point, we'd lived in a fairly normal house in a row in London, and coming to live here was really quite a change in life, quite a change for both us and our children. Our children found it exciting in different ways. Our eldest daughter thought, this is really grand and exciting, I'll invite all my friends around and we'll show off a bit. Our second daughter was a bit nervous about the scale of the house and all the dark corners, but our son just loved every minute of it. So many things to discover and play with. So we all reacted in different ways. I think for us, we just took a deep breath, knowing we had quite a task in front of us in making it, bringing the house up to date and suitable for a family at the beginning of the 21st century.
Here we are in the entrance hall of the house, and this is part of the Georgian house. So although it's been refaced both inside and outside by the Edwardians, this is part of the original Georgian house. There are one or two quite fun things to show you. Over here, there are some skates and climbing boots, and we have to talk about climate change where the skates are concerned, because there's a lake in the park. Tiny boots, yeah.
Climbing boots and skates.
And there's a lake in the park, and Charlie's mother used to skate every single year. The lake would freeze over, and we've been in the house 23 years, and we've been able to walk on the lake once.
The other thing that's fun in this room is the great grandfather clock. This was made by Maples, the famous store in Tottenham Court Road in London, from which much of the furnishings came. It's the most enormous thing, and it's tuned to a Whittington chime, which is unlike the chimes of Big Ben. It's some rather wonderful music. It will probably interfere with some of our shots as we go around the house, but the boom of the strike of the hour, it can be heard right across the house.
This is really rather fun, and we've got quite a few of these, actually, because Seno had its own fire brigade just after the turn of the century, and there's a wonderful livery which we can't show you today because it's in an outhouse, but all the firemen wore this, and they wore breeches and wonderful knee-high leather boots and waistcoats and tops with special livery buttons. So that's really rather fun. And actually, I love collecting hats, and you'll see all over the house. From our travels, you'll see all over the house lots of South Africa, turban from India. Anyway, so it's just rather a fun thing when we go travelling. We collect lots of hats, and it reminds us of our travels.
Come on into the drawing room, which is through here.
This again is part of the Georgian house, but it's been relined. It was relined by the Edwardians, and all this plasterwork is Edwardian, and it's in the style of Adam. So George Skipper, who took on the commission for this house, thought that this should be Adamized. This little side table here is in the original photograph of the room when it had been, the house when it had been completed in 1906. And there are a couple of other things which we'll show you. But the carpet is original. It's made for the house. And
shall I tell you about this painting? This is rather fun, this painting. This is the painting of my great-grandmother, the wife of Bert Cook, Bert being the man who built the house. What's amusing about this painting is that we found it in an outhouse facing the wall. And we thought, that's a bit odd, a family portrait in an outhouse facing the wall. And then I thought back that my grandmother, her daughter-in-law, was quite a fiery person. And I've got a feeling I knew who put that painting in the outhouse. It would be her daughter-in-law. Didn't want to have her mother-in-law beaming down on her. The other portraits in here are old family portraits from the Temple Richard side of my family rather than the Cook side of that. And another painting, which is portrait, which is quite interesting, is this picture down here, this portrait of a forebear whose name is William Kilburn. And he was famous as a designer of calicos and wallpapers at the beginning of the 19th century. Indeed, there's an album of his calicos and his designs in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. And you can go there and ask to see this, a great album.
I should tell you about the blinds. When we arrived in the house, there were heavy curtains with floral pelmets, and I felt that it really wasn't the right mood for the room. And I wanted this plasterwork, this very lovely plasterwork, to be revealed. So thought the blinds would be the best thing. And these blinds are actually our curtains from our London house, which we had modified. And I found these pelmets in an outhouse, and they were much broader. So we found somebody locally to reduce them to exactly the right size, and a very, very wonderful gilder who gilded them in a very subtle way. And actually, I think it works really well. And the yellow actually works very well with the silk on the wall. Although rumour has it that the silk was green and it's faded out to this yellow. But actually, this yellow is wonderful. Preferable to green, really.
One of the characteristics of this room is it's very light, which, in terms of Victorian Edwardian design, is probably rather unusual, because they got the electric light. I'm rather thrilled with the electric light. They didn't see the need in Victorian Edwardian times for a lot of light coming in, but the Georgian sash windows give a lot of light to this room.
We've got our 3 children in here. When they were, they're now in their 30s, but when they were, our son was 2 or 3, and our 2 daughters, who were 6 or 9 at the time, and we had them drawn in pastels. And I seem to remember they had to sit in front of cartoons, didn't they? We had the telly set up, and they just watched cartoons. So actually, they have a slightly glazed look on their faces, but actually, they're really charming portraits. So it's rather fun. We come in here and we remember them when they were adorable, sweet little things.
Another favourite item in this room is this hat here. Now, this is actually, we understand.
Oh, it's balanced on a washing up bowl or a pudding bowl, so be careful.
And the story of it, we found ourselves on holiday in India with our children, and in an antique shop in Old Delhi. And we were thinking of buying some tiny item for a few rupees. And our middle daughter appeared round the corner at this antique shop wearing this. And we looked at each other, we said, we've got to have it. Yeah. Unfortunately, the owner of the antique shop also got that message, so it was quite a hard bargain there.
And I think it's Tibetan, isn't it?
It's Tibetan. It's a ceremonial crown, and it's semi-precious stones. Yeah. It's very heavy.
But it's antique, and it's really very beautiful.
And probably never actually worn, probably just for display. Yeah. But that's great fun and a particular favourite. Come with me. We'll go into the heart of the house, into the inner hall. So this is the inner hall, the heart of the house. And this area was transformed by Skipper, the architect, because this would originally have been a small hallway with perhaps a back parlour and another room. And there was a circular staircase just in that corner over there. Skipper wanted to make something much more grand. And so he took out the stories above. And so we go straight from the ground floor to the height of the roof outside with this incredible staircase, which is based on a staircase
At Cassiabury.
A house in Oxfordshire, I do believe. Architects always borrow things, borrow ideas from other houses. So this hall is characterised by a wealth of detail. If you were to come and have a look at this bit of woodwork over here, over the fireplace, what we've got here is somebody carving just over 100 years ago, but very much in the style of Grinling Gibbon, with a wealth of detail, fruit, game in the middle. Another thing that's quite fun is this tapestry, which you can see around the top of the hall. And if we have lights action, there we go, lights. The tapestry is quite amusing, really, because it's not actually a tapestry at all. It's painted on Hessian. And my great-grandfather bought everything from Maples, this great shop in London. And it was possible to buy this hunting scene by the yard, which is exactly what he did. My uncle, when he moved into the house in the 1970s, moved the fireplace, which is quite a big job to do and amazing, a very significant change to make. And the result of that was that the tapestry of hunting used to follow a sequence. The beginning of the hunt, going to the hunt, for me, chasing the fox, catching the fox, going home. And the result of moving the fireplace was that the tapestry had been replaced out of order. So you start off by killing the fox, then going up to the meat. It's all in the wrong order.
But we should also say the reason for having canvas of hunting was because when this house was embellished or rebuilt by George Skipper in about 1900, 1905, this house was all about hunting and shooting parties. That was what happened here, and Sandringham was down the road, and so the inspiration for living in a big house was hunting and shooting, and the house was filled, wasn't it, with house parties.
And of course,
for hunting and shooting.
Great-grandmother, Albert Cook, came here to play. As you say, that the Prince of Wales had made shooting fashionable with Sandringham at big shooting parties. That's probably why he came to Norfolk and built Seno rather than go to another part of the countryside. So, yes, lots of
references to hunting and shooting, which we'll see when we go around the house. Looking up the stairs here at the wonderful stained glass and the murals on the staircase, which were painted in the 1980s, and Charlie's uncle and his 3 stepchildren who lived here.
But the painter was a man called William Barlow, who was actually a set painter, a set designer in London in the theatre world. And he came here and had rather fun painting these murals.
The original house is a 1760 house, and when Charlie's forebears bought the estate and moved here in 1900, employing a local architect to extend the house, it became an Edwardian house. So what you see is an Edwardian house. And what we didn't want was fashion, 21st fashion to dictate. It needed to be comfortable, but it needed to feel organic. So, for instance, in this room, we haven't repainted it, and there's a wonderful patina of cigar smoke from the 1950s and 1960s, and we thought if we stripped it back and painted it, it would look quite bling and really like a hotel room, and too fearsomely white, and the silk on the wall is contemporary, so it's 1900, and again it's quite sort of torn and weathered in places where the sun's got to it. But really, I suppose what I'm trying to say is we let the house dictate and wanted to live with the patina and let each generation have its say. So, there is decoration that represents each generation that's lived here.
It might be worth just mentioning an amusing sort of approach. How you view a house when you move into it changes. It's dynamic. In relation to this particular room, which essentially speaks Georgian, it's very light with big sash windows and a tall ceiling. The first morning we moved in here from London, we opened the door and came in and looked at the tatty silk on the wall and thought we'll have that down and get that painted. Looked at the tatty paint and thought we've got to get rid of that and smart up the paint. Closed the door, went out, couldn't find the money to do anything about it until we came back about 2 years later, when our reaction was, of course, completely different. We opened the door and thought to ourselves, what a lovely patina on the paint. Isn't that lovely silk? Perfect. Let's try and preserve it. So one's views and one's feel for a house are dynamic. But I think it's probably, what you just said is rather key, that the house is a very powerful house, and so we couldn't make it into anything other than an Edwardian house.
And we both have sort of Georgian sensibilities, and we love Georgian style, which is more restrained and more pared back and classical. But the house, we really love the house now. It's very eccentric, it's very ebullient, and we've learnt to go with it and embrace it. And it's been a bit of a love affair, hasn't it?
Things like light fittings.
Yeah.
Some of the light fittings, Edwardian light fittings, being essentially Georgian people, we thought were pretty horrid when we arrived. However, now we go around some of the great Victorian stations in London and look at the light fittings there, see the echoes there of the light fittings here, and say, look at that, isn't that wonderful? So again, one's approach.
And they were craftsmen. The Edwardians were incredible craftsmen, and everything they did beautifully. Yeah.
It might be worth saying something about the architect for the house, who is a chap called George Skipper, and he was a 19th century, born in the 19th century, and he essentially worked in Norfolk and built various significant buildings in Norfolk, notably in Norwich, his hometown. Betjeman said of Skipper that as Gaudi was to Barcelona, so was Skipper to Norwich. So he was the go-to architect of the region when my great-grandfather, Thomas Albert Cook, came here to develop the house. And I think he more or less gave Skipper an open check and said, off you go, get on with it. I think Skipper was restrained in what he might have done, because Edwardian architecture can be very varied and spectacular. I think he was restrained by the classical proportions, the Georgian house, which played on some of his classical inclinations, I would say, in terms of his design of the house. But what you see, both inside and outside, is pure Edwardiana. And I think a very good example of it. People like to come and have a look at Seno, I think precisely because it's rather unusual.
And it's also still in private hands, and a lot of Edwardian buildings have been turned into institutions, schools and so on.
Or demolished.
Yeah, in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, huge number were demolished. And yes, it's got a lot of classical references, and so it's lighter and more playful than a lot of Edwardian buildings. So this is the library, which is a wonderful winter room. We light a fire, and this is where people play cards and Monopoly and word games. This is a sort of the exit away from the snug and telly, and lots of drinking games. It's a very, very nice winter room. We don't use it much in the summer, but it's got this wonderful vaulted ceiling, which is a copy of a Jacobean ceiling, of course, again Edwardian, but lots of references to different periods other than the Edwardian period.
Well, notably, of course, this extraordinary door case. This is based on, indeed, it's almost a copy, I believe, of a door at Porton Castle in Oxfordshire. And I think Skipper, as architects do, snatching and borrowing ideas from different places. It's extraordinarily ornate. If you notice, there is at the bottom, there are little arches with mythical animals, these great columns, and a lot of carved woodwork at the top. And it's very unusual being canted at an angle into the room.
And of course, on top, there's the monogram of Thomas Albert Cook.
TAC.
TAC.
Indeed.
Who Yes, built the house. And it's a copy of The Whispering Door at Broughton Castle.
Exactly, exactly.
Whether we
The other
mentioned
thing
that.
that's of interest to me is this carpet. The carpet is the original carpet, and it's very thick and lovely and warm to walk on. But the most extraordinary thing is that our children over the years, with various parties, have poured literally gallons of wine into this thing.
Beer, and it
you
just doesn't show.
It doesn't show. It seems to soak it up. Pour it in and it soaks up. I might mention also this painting over here. This painting shows my great-grandfather who built the house. So this is Thomas Albert Cook driving the coach. Carriage driving was a great passion of his. And here he is driving 4 rather wonderful skewbald horses. The little boy here is my grandfather who lived here after his father. And Seno is new. And I think that painting demonstrates a huge sort of sense of confidence, and I have arrived.
We're talking about things decorative, if people are interested in things decorative. When we arrived here, these curtains were literally in shreds. And I thought, well, are we going to start again? Or are we going to just embrace this very mid to late 1970s vibe? There's Hessian on the wall, which is typical of the period. So we thought, let's keep this. So we relined, and I found some wonderful fabric with some edging, and our curtain maker was able to keep the fabric and put new life into these curtains. So lots of repurposing. Very pleased with that.
I must point out a detail over here on the fireplace, which is quite fun. First of all, down on the hearth, you'll see a spaniel, which probably would have been used in shooting, retrieving shot pheasants, a spaniel there with stone. And then, of course, this rather wonderful and rather sugary, dare I say, Edwardian saying, "This is your home, seek no other." Why would you indeed? Just before it was Edwardianized, and the first photograph shows you essentially the 1770s house. What you can see there is 2 bays, 3 bays, and 2 bays on the other side, and a small single-story extension there. What, of course, Skipper did was to take that as the core of the house and build on substantially down here. And we'll see when we go outside how much bigger he made the house. This next photograph shows you the same building, the 1770s house, from rather closer up, slightly to one side. And indeed, this photograph, also from the western side, shows the 1717 house, which was subsumed into the Edwardian house. Skipper was restrained by what he had here, in the sense that he was obliged to make an Edwardian house with what we might describe as Georgian undertones. This is why.
But we could also show you the photograph of this room just when it had been completed in, let's put it here, in 1905, 1906. Yes, here is the very room. This is what this room looked like in 1906. So as you see, same fireplace, all the woodwork and the ceiling, and the same carpet. And we've got this table elsewhere in the house, but very little has changed. It's very formal. There's another shot here of the same room.
The wonderful absorbent carpet stands out, of course.
Yes, but with all the chairs round the edge of the room, very formal, not a very sort of inviting place to sit. But it was used as a library, and probably these are the same books in the bookcase, with some additions of ours.
Come with us and we'll go and look in our small dining room, which is fun because it has some interesting family portraits. Come this way. So this is the little dining room, and what's fun about this room, I think, really are the portraits. We have here a small portrait which shows Thomas Cook, the founder of the famous travel business. In my view, it's a terrible picture, but it is a contemporary picture of him, and for that reason, it's rather fun. Over here on this wall, we have his son, who is perhaps the man who really pushed the business of Thomas Cook to become the great thing that it was. He was born in about 1840 and died in 1890s. And he was the man who invented, for example, the traveller's check, or was known in those days as the circular note. And it's rather astonishing that, if you think in 1880 you could use a Thomas Cook traveller's check to pay for your hotel in Canberra, Delhi, Paris, Toronto, San Francisco. An astonishing thing when you think that actually when we got into the 20th century, it was not until after the Second World War that it became possible to use money reasonably easily abroad. So he was the man, I think, who really drove the growth of the business through the late 19th century. He's seen in this picture sitting with his back to the Nile, and Thomas Cook came to dominate
Maybe
fashion
take the flowers
travel
away so that you can see.
on the Nile in the 19th century, to the extent that when General Gordon in Khartoum was besieged, the British government employed cooks to take the British Army to Khartoum to go and rescue Gordon. They arrived a day late, famously, but that wasn't Cook's fault. It was, I think, actually Gladstone's fault, the Prime Minister, who prevaricated, didn't really want to save Gordon, who he viewed as an adventurer having fun in the Sudan. So that's John Cook. His son, we're now on to, therefore, the grandson of the original Thomas, is over here. This is Frank Cook. And Frank and his brother Ernest were the two who built Cooks right up through into the early 20th century. My great-grandfather, Bert Cook, sold his third of the business of Thomas Cook to his two brothers to finance the building of Seno. And he came to Norfolk to play, and this is what he spent his fortune on. Another painting, just quickly to mention, is this portrait of Virginia, which was painted in about 2001. And it was painted by a delightful Russian painter called Eugenia Gruzdev. And this shows Virginia as, I rather put it, I very much wanted a portrait of the girl I married. I had to sort of duck.
Pre-wrinkles is what you said. Yeah.
I had to duck as the handbag came swinging around. But anyway, we got it.
We had a lot of friends in common in London, and one year a gang of us decided to go to Venice, and everybody dropped out except for Charlie and I. And I thought, oh goodness, well, he's a very nice guy, and I suppose we've got a lot of sightseeing to do, and an outcome of violence.
And the rest
is history. So we've been married, actually, 40 years.
Yeah.
We've been married 40 years, and we lived in London for the first 10 years of our marriage.
Yeah.
10,
Your
15.
career was at Sotheby's, mine was in investment management, all in London. So coming to Norfolk, I grew up in Norfolk as a child, so I felt I was coming back home. But for Virginia, this was passport country, How far north are we going? Are we going north of the M25, the motorway around London?
It was alien to me. And also, neither of us have been brought up in big houses. Charlie's mother, who was brought up at Seno, but she and her husband lived in a farmhouse down the road. I was brought up in London mostly. I started my life in Hampshire, but mostly in London, in an ordinary London house. So suddenly to arrive in a big house was a huge shock, both in terms of the space and, for me, the value system of living in rural Britain and the things I was that were expected of me, some of which I took up, some of which I didn't. But it was a steep learning curve for me. And also I'd had actually wasn't completely full-time, but a part-time job. I'd had a full-time job at Sotheby's and then a part-time job at Sotheby's with children. So I was used to going to work, and coming here, life changed because I had to work on my own. Charlie was at work in Norwich, and I was overseeing builders here with a huge amount of building work that had to happen and restoration work over the first 5 years. And so I was managing that on my own, not going into an office, so being here on my own. And then latterly with our events, we have a few weddings here, and we have photo shoots, and we have people to stay. Quite a lot of Americans to stay, actually.
We love
we love having them to stay.
Invariably, we meet interesting people. So yes, that was the
So
business,
that
that
is
was the
the-
business that you developed, wasn't it?
Yes,
The business.
so it's yes, and running that on my own here it was a huge change from going into an office every day. Yeah.
I, in the meantime, was still going to an office and having an office life. The main thing of which was, of course, it was warm in winter and cool in summer because we had air conditioning. And I couldn't talk about either of those two things, the heating.
No, you got back and found me very grumpy, wearing several layers in the kitchen.
And cold
Yeah.
or hot.
Where we've got a wood burner and an Aga, and that was really the only sort of bearable room in the house in terms of temperature. That's it. Mittens, I've even worn mittens. Layers and layers. Yeah. Thick socks.
This long corridor is rather gloomy because it doesn't have any windows to the outside. But what's fun about it are these little paintings all the way down in the alcoves, all of which show sporting scenes. Hunting here, hunting oxen, no doubt. We've got some fishing going on here. And then on down here we have some shooting of one sort or another going on. These were painted by a man called William Neatby. And Neatby is particularly famous for the extraordinary tile work and designs, which you'll see if you were to go to the food hall of Harrods, where there is the most spectacular tile work. That was all designed by William Neatby. So he painted these. But come on in, we're going to go to the big dining room next.
And this is the big dining room, which is where Easter, Christmas, the big events take place. And we have great fun laying up the table. We've laid it for 12, actually, because we've got a group from the United States coming for dinner, which is lovely. We're much looking forward to that. But the table can extend and seat 26. And yes, so it doubles in length. But we don't use this very often, this room, but it's wonderful. High days and holidays, family events, weddings, etc. That's where it all happens.
At Christmas, because we live in a relatively large house, the rest of the family think, where should we go for Christmas? I know, Seno spot. Yeah, so one Christmas we were 22 for 3 days, so all our meals had been here. They were great fun. A riot, but great fun.
Except for the cook.
Except for the poor cook. You. Things which are interesting in this room are perhaps, again, some rather fine carving of a dead game, again, redolent to the great carver Grinling Gibbons. And the chap who carved this was a Norwich carver who particularly sought to copy Grinling Gibbon. The other thing of the fun are the alcoves, that end and that end, who are painted by a chap called William Murray. In fact, there's a date, 1911, I think.
It's 1908.
1908?
Yes.
And he was a jobbing artist in Norwich. And what's fun about this, I don't know whether we can get a shot of it, what's fun about this is that it's very redolent of Leighton House and the Raphaelite style. It's very much of that time. And again, they show sort of mythical subject, very pleasing house. Over here, there's a painting which is not contemporary, but this shows the original Thomas who founded the business of Thomas Cook, hard at work at his desk. It's rather a nice painting, but it was painted in the 1930s from a photograph, so it doesn't have the vivacity, perhaps, of a live painting. Other people in this room, this is actually my grandfather, called, guess what, Thomas Cook, and he was master of the Glazier's Company in London, and he's wearing the Glazier's Company medal in the middle. His row of medals on his chest are all wartime medals, and he was in charge of fire brigades. Other things that are of interest in this room are down here we have a portrait of one of my temple forebears, and if you look closely at the picture, you can see that he is leaning on a stick. Now, the stick is actually this very thing here, and it's not just a stick. Across the top here, what looks like a handle is in fact a very small telescope. And because he looks a bit of a dandy, I have a suspicion that he might have rather enjoyed going to somewhere like Brighton, sitting on the seafront there and using its top-tier, as it were, spot the talent, as it were. And one more item to mention would be this great banner. And this banner was presented to the man in the cartoon here. And he is Sir Richard Temple, Governor of Bombay and Chancellor of the Exchequer for India. Although it was actually called the first finance minister. And the banner was used in a great durbar, I think, to celebrate one of the jubilees of Queen Victoria, probably Silver Jubilee, I would imagine. And it shows the Temple family crest.
And the wallpaper, originally, this room was decorated, we think, in silk matching the curtains. The curtains are sort of 1940s, 1950s, I think. And there was some filming here in the 1980s, just before we moved in, shortly before we moved in anyway. This wallpaper was designed by Coles for the film, and Charlie's uncle, who lived here, didn't want it replicated anywhere else. So he said, once you've used the block, destroy the block. So this wallpaper is unique, which is rather fun.
It's perhaps worth saying the reason why re-wallpapering this room seemed a good idea was because during the war, the Second World War, the army were billeted in this house, and there were lady soldiers here who apparently caused a terrible flood in the bathrooms above, which came down the silk and destroyed it effectively. So it had been hanging in tatters for about 30 years before the luck of having this film come along, which happened to pay for wonderful wallpaper.
We do have filming here. Sadly, they never seem... They put the house back as they find it, but very sadly, they don't seem to now have the budget to re-wallpaper with really expensive Coles wallpaper like this. So, you know, they'd get out a duster and a broom and try to leave the house as they find it.
Another detail which is quite fun is this fireplace, which has at the top of it one of these rather sort of sugary Edwardian, which really Edwardian sayings. They say, what they say, let them say. In other words, really, I'm going to do my own thing and please leave me to it. Which was probably exactly the attitude of my great-grandfather Thomas Albert Kirk when he built the house and came here to play. This is the North End cloakroom, which is quite entertaining because it's a wonderful bit of Edwardian design. Come on in. Tremendous tile work in all directions, wonderful marble floor, and fittings to basins, to these great taps. They're huge.
Now these are original ski boots, aren't they? And skis we've got.
These ski boots are from the 1950s, I think, as are the skis. Anybody who's a skier will know that skiing on skis of that length is quite a challenge.
And they're wooden.
And they're made of wood.
And there's some roller skates too. Oh, poles. And the poles.
Yeah. Nice ski poles. Lots of roller skates for you as well.
But we love all this memorabilia, and we find it in outhouses. You're trying to find interesting things that represent previous generations, and there is still so much more to find. We just don't have the time, really, but there is still so much like that.
One of the firemen's uniforms. So this is the Seno Fire Brigade. I didn't know I could manage to go into this jacket. It's incredibly heavy.
It's also very, very dusty and dirty. With all its wonderful, the buttons and everything.
Fire Brigade, fireman's axe there.
Oh, and there's some farmer's boots as well, but...
There are some farmer's boots. So there's his axe. And the boots. It'll take the hour to get into the side went.
But it's been really interesting going through the outhouses and salvaging. And one of the things we salvaged was the light fittings. When we moved in, we replaced a lot of melamine and plastic light fittings with the original metal light fittings. Those were things we found. But it's quite fun because they're the original basins and the original taps here. None of that has changed. So this is where we live, which is obviously, it's a wonderful, light, bright space. And we worked with exactly the same area, but I think, as I mentioned earlier, it had brown and white glazed tiles, and all the sort of units had frantic yellow and green, striped and stippled and dragged surfaces, heavily varnished.
Terrible stuff. It gives you a headache.
So really the necessary thing was to make this light. So we brightened it up and made this wonderful central island, and everybody sort of leans up against this island. And
The Arga, of course, over here is the
original 1979 Arga. So we had to work with that.
The Arga is always the heart of the house. This is where all the great conversations happen in life, the important things. The big decisions are all made here with a mug of tea, discussing stuff. And important to us is to be able to both eat close to where we cook and then be able to sit and read the papers and have a TV, which is what we have through here in our little snug.
And the sort of artefacts and paintings, the things we have in here, are the things that we've collected that we love. Contemporary pictures. Actually, that was painted by you, Charlie, wasn't it? Except for the two plans, which are part of George Skipper's original plans for the house, all the pictures are contemporary and Norfolk, except for the jolly nude at the end. He's not a Norfolk artist, but all the other paintings are Norfolk artists.
And they are our choice. When you inherit a place like this, of course, you inherit the contents and you have to go with the flow. So it's rather nice for us to have a space in the house where we can really be ourselves.
When we moved in, we found all this glass at the back of a dark cupboard, and it's from the 1930s. And we think that it was brought to the house as a present for a long stay from somebody, and it comes from Czechoslovakia. And I thought, I live in here, I do all the cooking and live in here. This is that we'd really like to have a look at this. And so we lit the cupboard and we've lined it up, and we don't use it, but it's very beautiful.
We discovered it in a box in the cellar, entirely unloved. So it is now very much loved.
Come and have a look at our snug, which is where this is wonderful because it's an integral part of the kitchen. So, we can be on our laptops, we can cook, we can eat, we can watch telly, we can live in this space, and we can shutter up the rest of the house to protect the fabrics and so on. So we shut all the shutters, we lock the doors, and we use this space. So it's like a sort of huge flat, isn't it, really? And we don't have to move from here. And again, all the paintings on the wall here are paintings that we've collected, and all contemporary, almost without exception, contemporary Norfolk artists.
The wood burner, that is key to morale in the winter. Having that roaring away and keeping everywhere warm is very nice.
And the snug, when we moved in, this was Charlie's uncle's office, and it had dark bottle green office carpet tiles and strip lighting hanging from the ceiling.
Chocolate brown wallpaper.
Chocolate brown wallpaper. And we thought, we've got to use this as the extension to our kitchen. It's where we're going to live. We had to take them back to plaster, and the colour of the plaster was so wonderful. I thought, how can we replicate that? And we found a farrow and ball colour which replicates, it's called setting plaster. And so that was the colour for this room. And it shows off, I adore pink, as you can probably see, and it shows off all our paintings very well. We love this room. And I found some fantastic fabric to go with the pink walls.
As you can guess, we very nearly didn't paint it at all because the plaster colour was so good.
But the children complain that we're kleptos. And they say, when you die, we're going to be left to sort all this out. So every time they come home, we find that things have been put away in cupboards. But, when they go, I put everything out again. Yeah.
Fish it all back out.
Yeah. For me, my favourite room has to be the winter garden. Not in winter, when everything's put to bed in there and it's even colder than the house. But we open it up in April, late April, and it stays open until late October, and it's joyful. As you'll see, it's just filled with flowers, pelargoniums, campsis, plumbago, and there's a wonderful scent. And we have palms and citrus. And It's always joyful, even on a rainy day. It's a feel-good room, and that is my. If it's a room, it's I suppose an orangery or a conservatory, but it's my favourite room in the house. And this room, I love the light here too. Yeah.
I would add to that another favourite room actually is our kitchen, where there's a wood burner and where we really can be warm. And that, of course, is where all the things of modern life.
Yes.
The TV's there, the newspapers are there, the food is there,
Yeah.
the children are going to be there. So I think a winter's evening in our kitchen snug.
Yeah, love that.
With the newspapers. In terms of other rooms, I rather enjoy also the library, particularly again in winter with a big fire and the curtains drawn and a glass of port and blazing logs. It's a very homely and warm feel in there, and being surrounded by books and history and paintings of the family and so on, there's a great sense of continuity and the feeling you're part of a long piece of history which has gone on for a long time and within that will go on for many years to come.
So this is my favourite room in the house, I think. And it's a conservatory, but its proper name is the winter garden. And in fact, it's not really a winter garden at all, because in winter, everything goes to sleep. We cut back the pelargoniums, we put them under this canopy and cover them with fleece. So nothing happens in here. And it's a closed space, really, until April. But the values of the Edwardians who lived here was rather different, because I think this was a space that was used in winter, because you'll see there's a very, very long radiator at the back of the winter garden, which no longer functions. And there were hot water pipes underneath the grills here, which let out some air to keep the beloved plants warm and happy, keep the frost off. Of course, there's no heating in the house, but, you know, the priority was the plants. But it really is joyful. We just filled it with pelargoniums, which just seem to do their own thing. I water them and feed them, and deadheads.
And pray.
Pray. But, yeah.
The story of the building of this room is quite amusing. My great-grandfather, Thomas Albert, who built the house, set the architect off with the structure of the building, Skipper, and he went off on a world tour for a year to let the builders and Skipper get on with the building of the house. And he came back and asked Skipper to show him round. So they went round the house, what was being built, and my great-grandfather, I gather, thought it was all very good and approved of everything. He then turned to Skipper and said, "But where is the ballroom?" And you can imagine one of those hit your forehead moments. No ballroom. And so Skipper was obliged to build this room as a ballroom. It would have been hopeless as a ballroom, but a hard, cold floor, very echoey. It would never have worked as a ballroom. But I think my grandfather was happy enough not to have a ballroom used for ball, instead a wonderful garden room.
What we use it for now, as well as for the family, and just we eat, because it's off the kitchen, we eat here when we've got friends or family. It's just sort of, and it leads into the garden. But it's registered for civil ceremonies, because we have a very small number of weddings at Seno, exclusive weddings every year, just a small number. And this is registered for civil ceremonies. So people can get married here. They have their wedding breakfast here. We have had dancing here, and sometimes small weddings for 50 people. They eat on trestle tables at this end, and then they dance at this end. Or it can be a drinks reception for weddings. So it's been a wonderful space. And actually, Charlie and I have had some cracking parties in here as well.
And so have our children.
And so have our children.
Sometimes with very loud music, still going at breakfast time the following morning.
Let's head up to the bedrooms, or see one or two of the bedrooms anyway. We'll stop on the way at a space that we call the rotunda, which was where the original Georgian staircase was. But it's really, you can't go and see a bedroom without seeing this, because it's really rather lovely. And this mural was painted in the 1970s. And this is part of the original Georgian plasterwork with the family crests of people who used to live at Seno before the cooks came here. from the rotunda, we'll go into our bedroom. Now, this is full of stuff that we've collected. Every surface is covered, but it's rather fun. These curtains actually came from our house in London. Endless hats, endless things that the children have drawn.
And a really big room. You could very
And a really big room.
Tennis in here.
Yes.
Not quite.
But again, it's the sort of lots of pink in here. It's a tiled bathroom. And these tiles are very fashionable at the time that the Edwardian house was completed, with a sort of interest in the Middle East and the Far East. And it feels to me like a hammam. And the watercolours on the wall are all painted by Charlie's great grandfather.
My father's side of the family.
On his father's side of the family, and they're all of India and the Middle East, what's now Pakistan, and fits very well.
An aisle's very reminiscent or redolent of William Morris. Makes one think of William Morris.
An original in this bit of the house. You've got original Edwardian light fittings. And this wonderful room, which was decorated in, I guess, the late 70s, early 80s, with lots of Colfax fabric and Colfax wallpaper. And we had a leak that came through there's a floor above this, and the water came through the roof, the floor above, and into this room, and it damaged all the wallpaper along this in this bay. And when we moved in 2003, we managed to source the same Colfax wallpaper. It's got a slightly different hue, but luckily they were still making it, so we could repaper. But we've kept the fabric. We've just done a bit of stitching and repairing and mending. But it's rather fun. It's part of the evolution of the house. And actually, yes, it's wonderful. We've got our children's dolls' houses here, one in each bedroom.
People love staying in this room, but it's a classic Edwardian feel for a bedroom.
When it was in your grandmother's day, it was the morning room.
Yes.
And it used there was a table in the middle of the room, and she'd organise everybody for the day. The cook,
it was effective.
parlourmaid, yeah.
She would sit in great state behind a table and boss people around, tell all the maids and people where to go and work, and discuss with the cook what's going to be eaten that day.
Yeah, it wasn't a bedroom then, but I think it became a bedroom in the 70s. We go into this bedroom really because I want to show you the bathroom, because it's just rather fun and it's large.
We had the idea that we would try and make this into a 4-poster bath. In fact, we ran out of energy and time. We haven't done it yet. It might yet happen. But this would be just wonderful to make it into a 4-poster bath.
But all the paintings on the wall, all these paintings are painted by your great-grandfather and great-great-grandfather.
Mostly of India and Persia, as it then was. Iran today.
And lovely Colfax wallpaper. I'm mad about this. But it's... I've never had a bath in here, actually, but people who have bathed in here. So it's really wonderful because you've got a sort of... you've got a 180 view lying in your bath. And actually, if you look out of the window in that direction, you can see the boathouse, which sits over the Park Lake. And it's just, lovely place to have a soak. We want to show you this bedroom because the wallpaper is original 1909. And we found a sample of it, which is at the V&A, the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. And normally we have the blinds down and the curtains closed to try and protect it. And we don't allow any children to stay in here with crayons or anything else. No children in here. But it is wonderful that it survived, whatever that is, nearly 120 years. Probably worth having a look at it. Wonderful colours and in fantastic condition. When the rest of the world is chaos, this is the place you can return to, which is safe, you understand it, you put a lot of yourself into it. The happiest times have been here and sometimes the most difficult times, but it's where you come back to and you understand it. It's your sort of safe space.
We really found out about what made this home, I think, during the COVID crisis, when we were lucky enough to have our 3 children back here with us, and we were isolated in this house, and we had many months of just us, the family, having the most wonderful time. It was awful for so many people with COVID, but I have to say our experience of it, all being able to work from home with our family, was actually a very happy one.
And we know we were very lucky in that.
We were lucky. But,
Although all of us had got COVID, but we were very lucky.
The other times which are the happiest in this house, I think, are when our children filled it up with their friends. We did hit the record once where we had, I think, 55 or 60 youngsters aged 17, 18, 19, 20, all staying here. We had a little music festival in the parkland out here, and we had that was the maximum we ever had. It was great fun, but
each of the children had, I think we started off saying you can each have 5 friends to stay, and that became 15, 16, 17
Dad,
each.
do you mind if it's sort of 8? Dad, do you mind if I think I might be 10, followed by Dad, I don't know how many. We'll see what turns up.
They slept on the floor. We found one of them with his feet in the fountain, lying on one in the dog bed. Yeah. But actually it's joyful, with all their sort of craziness and their music and not treating the house with... They treat it with respect and love, but behaving in a sort of 21st century way and just filling every room with, music and the craziness of youth, and we love that. And quite often we have, you'll see our big dining room, which is very formal, and there were people who came to stay here who hadn't stayed in a house like this before. And we used to find that one of the things, we've got a great dressing up chest, and we'd say, okay, tonight we're going to have dinner in the big dining room because we're 20 or whatever, and it's got to be fancy dress. And we have cross-dressing and, men in miniskirts and girls dressed as min-pins and all sorts. And it sort of diffuses the formality of the thing. And yeah, we love it.
I can remember a particular moment which made me think, this is home. I was working in Norwich at the time. It was a summer evening and the children were all at home. And I came back from work and was driving up the outside of the house. I was some way away from the house, maybe 300 or 400 yards, and I could hear music. And I stopped the car and wound the window down, and the entire building, all the windows are open, top floor, bottom floor, everywhere. And the building was going boom, 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 boom with music. I thought, yes, that's good.
Yeah.
This is home.
And that the children have made it their home. I mean, they all live and work in London, but they still, they default. They come back here and they love it when they're here.
So goodbye, Homeworthy. It's been wonderful having you here. Come and see us again.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.